Good afternoon once again, PSQ Nation. Welcome to the day 2 of the second PSQ Quality Leaders Bootcamp. And I hope you're able to enjoy, you learn something from our day 1 from Engineer Alex Bantelan. Thank you so much for staying with us, for being with us for the PSQ week. Actually, PSQ week should have been last week, but then again, we moved it to this week. But in terms of the recording of our session, we did it a week prior to this week. So, okay, let me start our discussion. We invited one of the leaders coming from the PSQ Technical Hubs, and one of the hubs would be the Lean Six Sigma Hub. And one of the specialists of that specific hub is no other than the manager for continuous improvement and risk and compliance of DSV International Shared Services Incorporated, and that's Jeffrey Solis. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Good afternoon, Dr. Ray.
All right. How are you doing? What have you been doing, or what keeps you busy during this time or for the past couple of months?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Ray. I'm doing good. We have a lot of activities going on in the organization. We're growing. Yeah, I might say that in the recent months, pandemic wasn't able to stop us from growing, and we're still busy in terms of migrating new processes and expanding the current ones as well for the SVISSC. On a personal level, yeah, it's good that we've opened some avenues in terms of sports. So I'm back in the games, and yeah, having some sweat during the
Wow.
weekends.
Wow, and that's amazing, Jeff. You're being engaged, being active during this time, and I know that we've learned a lot, so much, I mean, from taking care of our health during this pandemic times, and that's also a good thing that you shared about about DSV, that the pandemic, it doesn't stop the operations. Or actually, that it's the other way around. You keep on growing, you keep on increasing, and I think there's a lot of um people right here in the audience who would want to, maybe they would want to check your website or DSV. So that's one of the companies that you would want to look for, because that's a
Yeah.
pandemic proof. Um, okay. In terms of, since you mentioned, right, Jeff, in terms of the operations, what have you been busy at in terms of being with DSV or being with your organization? Now that we are on the post-pandemic stage, I hope that we are on that stage, but we are looking forward to be on that stage, right? What do you think are the survival methodologies or strategies or maybe approaches that your organization maybe have implemented for since the pandemic, or maybe some of the maybe approaches that you will be implementing like in the next couple of months?
Okay, I want to step back, right? Because during the pandemic, we were still growing. And during those times where we had the hype of different variants like the Delta, the Omicron, and all, of course, we have encountered a lot of people in the organizations who are skeptic going back to the office. But one of the survival activities that we did was to ensure that people are safe going to office. Okay, we have also ensured that we are following the IATF guidelines. Okay, so that's our primary rule. So we follow whatever the government says in terms of operating regularly in the office, be it 50%, 20%, whatever percentage that will be in the office. So
Mhm.
we followed that. And we also provided support with the employees in terms of ensuring that they can work from home. Okay, even transportation subsidies. When we called people to get back to the office, we also provided support in terms of meals and everything, so as to entice them and at least remove some worries from them when they come in. Yeah, so basically, there's no rocket science that we did. We just followed everything. And bearing in mind that logistics is one of the industries that actually benefited from the pandemic. So business must go on. And so as we have to ensure that the business is running day in and day out, regardless of what level of quarantine or pandemic we have. Yeah, so that's how we operated, and we're happy that all of the strategies that we implemented actually worked. We had minimal number of affected individuals in 2 years, very very minimal, and as of today, yeah, we're still growing, and we're happy that most of the stakeholders are looking at Manila as one of the hubs to grow and to migrate businesses to.
Wow, that's a good story to tell, Jeff. And I love the fact that you put more importance or emphasis in terms of the safety of the people, or really about people, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, that's what we learned. I mean, for the past 2 years of this pandemic, and I believe really looking at the people, taking care of our people is one of the things that we focused more on. And I believe it's great job for DSB. And I'm just curious, Jeff, in terms of, because your role, right, you're not just focusing on continuous improvement, you're also focusing on the risk and compliance. And I don't know what's the scope of the risk and compliance, but um, how hard it is or how difficult it is during the pandemic times looking at that specific area on risk and compliance.
Okay. In terms of risk and compliance, there's a specific person that's also managing BCP
Mm,
in our organization. But generally, we had these regular catch-ups. We had
mhm,
this weekly and sometimes more than once a
mm.
week meet for discussing any specific topic. We all monitor the news, the government guidelines. We monitor our employees, and we discuss how the site operates. Apart from what operations demand us to deliver, right? So all of those are factored in. So in this pandemic situation, it actually tested the resiliency of not just the management team but everyone in the organization in terms of delivering to our customers. And that's where we felt great value with our people, because of whatever the management has decided upon, definitely it considered our employees' welfare, well-being, and everything, but forgetting uh, not forgetting the demands that our customers needs, right? But these people that we have in the organization are pretty much cooperative, and they understood the need, being in an industry that's actually growing, that's actually becoming an essential part of the economy these days, right? So everything has to be delivered. Yeah, because we actually prevented everyone from being in contact more often, right? So these kind of services is becoming an essential part of our day-to-day lives. So they understood that, and yeah, so everything went as smooth as we've expected it to be, and we're happy about it.
Great job. And I also love the fact, Jeff, that you also mentioned about the customers who are the lifeblood of the organizations. And you also mentioned that, people are really doing their best to deliver what should be delivered to the customers. And also hearing that you're able to implement all of the plans as smooth as possible without a lot of noise coming from anyone. I believe there's something that you did um good in your organization that I believe that other organizations can also emulate, especially in the type of situation wherein that's a crisis situation, right? And managing a crisis situation is way too different as compared to managing the day to day or the usual BAU. And
Yeah.
I know thank you for that, Jeff. And then I'm also thinking about, since during the pandemic, right, there's a lot of buzz about the digital transformation and all of that. But then again, if you would take a look at like a lot of literature, because I've been following it even prior to pandemic, there's already a lot of noise about the digital transformation. And even before, years before the pandemic, we already started a lot of digital transformation initiatives in the previous organizations I was connected with. And then it just so happened that during the pandemic that it accelerated a lot of the implementation of these digital transformations. And there's a lot of emerging technologies that came into the picture, not just the regular, the usual, like the IoT, the AI that we know of. There's a lot more that that we saw in the market, right? I just want to understand, Jeff, in terms of the organization. I know that you guys, you're also embracing that for sure, because that's an imperative these days, right?
Yep.
Digital is no longer, it's no longer an option, but it's actually it's a must for all of the organization. I'm just thinking, what are the challenges that you faced as an organization in terms of implementing these types of digital transformation projects, and then how were you able to overcome these types of challenges?
Okay. I'm speaking of our growth in terms of robotics, process automations. I might say that in the recent months, the team has
Mm,
also grown significantly, at least for Manila. And
nice.
that is driven by the demand, of course, and also the industry requirement. Because of competition, we should not be left behind, right? And
Mm,
the increasing demands of our customers is also something that we bear in mind, and that's the reason why we're driven by more and more efficiencies. We actually work hand in hand with our automation teams in terms of identifying opportunities for improvement, and also when it's listed and reviewed, we submit it to the automation team, and they do their work in terms of generating that solution for the teams. Now, internally. The greatest challenge that we have is, of course, some infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure wherein there are solutions, but of course there will always be some technical limitations, like the IT restrictions, policies that we have to adhere to. So not all solutions will be approved
mm,
immediately. It may take some time to defend, to gather the resources and everything. But generally, that's the main thing that we've experienced. But learning from some of the peers from different organizations, I can generalize that we also have this lack of skills, because being into robotics, process automations, and all, we will require certain level of expertise so that we can assure that these people will deliver for the organization. It's not easy to find, and we have a demand as early as today, but the person
mm,
that we need to hire may take some time because of the sourcing issues. Okay, we have limited talents in the Philippines, and also the amount of time that they need to spend before moving from one organization to another. So that's one of the great challenges, as I hear, and not just with us, but also with other peers. Okay, some of it, of course, capital. Okay, technology
mm,
comes with a price, and even the talents come with a price, and
mm.
it's becoming a limitation for our for our peers as well. And one of the things that I believe is also a major contributor when it comes to hurdles in digital transformation is the lack of awareness. Okay, we are in the fourth generation today, right? Fourth industrialization, but some of the organization, let's um, agree on that they're still in the second and the third industrialization era, when they are on the verge of embracing that. And I believe that platforms like what we have today, like PSQ and some other groups, right? It serves as a platform to spread awareness of what uh, technologies are available in the industry, what best practices other organizations have delivered already, and can be lifted and shifted to their organizations. So, that's something that will definitely be a great help for everyone to be on track with the fourth industrialization.
All right. I think there's a lot of things that you mentioned, Jeff, in terms of the challenges, right? And one of the things that I was able to get would be is in terms of the war on talent. And I
Yeah.
know, especially these days, the hashtag Great Resignation or Great Attrition has been viral since last year, and it will go on most likely like in the next couple of months as well, and that can be like one of the contributors. But I am also thinking, Jeff, have you also tried to or look, or maybe is this one of your plans to invest in like training people, like say for instance an RPA or IPA, or is that part of the roadmap or in your pipeline?
It is definitely. We have internal programs
Mhm.
for developing people so that more and more people will be able to deliver automations
Mhm.
and advanced robotics internally for the organization. We have academies, so I will not mention anything, but
Yeah.
uh, we have uh, we have programs to deliver internal talent, starting with Excel, with VBA, and also coaching them on advanced coding, so that the minor ones, we all have different levels and complexities of projects, right? And we can distribute these small scale initiatives to these people
Mhm.
internally, the ones that we coach, and the core people in the automations and robotics team will be able to focus on the critical projects that will generate significant savings to the organization. So in that sense, we will not be able to leave some ideas behind. We have more manpower. We have people closer to the process who understands the process day in and day out. So they will be able to incorporate their knowledge into the from the process into the tools that they are developing, and it will be much more efficient for them moving forward. Not just the process efficiency, but in terms of efficiency in delivering the solution to the process that they are in.
That's nice. And I can also share, Jeff, because for the past 2 years, what we've been looking at or exploring, but we started actually our journey like, 2 years ago, is a citizen-led development. Um, or citizen-led developers, right? And this is more about democratizing the RPA. I know that you have to invest in terms of the real coding, the real RPA, but for the other processes where these are the simple usual processes, but I believe that can be done by that citizen-led development initiative. And there are some platforms that are popular these days, and not just these days, but since 2017, that are offering that service. And I also love the fact that you mentioned, Jeff, in terms of the technology, right? I know it comes with a price, right? And depending on, the budget that we have, the investment that we have, and if it's really the right technology for our environment, and a lot of things that you have to consider. And the third one that I was able to get, what you shared, Jeff, is all about the benchmarking. And
Yeah.
thank you for recognizing that. I mean, I hope our audience, especially the members of PSQ, was able to get a lot of things coming from our host company. That was Toyota last Q1, last
Mhm.
March. Yeah, last March. And by the way, I'm inviting all of you by June. So we will be releasing by this month another Ugnayan, another benchmarking learning event. And this is exclusive again for the members of the society. And it will be, I believe, ST Microelectronics that will be highlighting, that will be hosting for our Ugnayan. And sometime in July, and that will be a shared service that will be sharing with us. So that's a CBRE. Okay, that's actually amazing, Jeff. And let me proceed with some of the things that I'm thinking of right now. I mean, with the flow of our conversation, I'm also thinking about sustainability perspective. I know that's one of the. I mean, um, you cannot do away with sustainability when we talk about quality these days. And most of the time, it's not just about the short-term burst that we're talking about, short-term burst of success that we're talking about, but we're really gearing towards how can we be sustainable in the future. And they say that in 20 or in the year 2030, it will be a sink or swim scenario or situation. Maybe if you can share some of the techniques or maybe some of the things um, that your organization has been doing to future proof its business or its operations.
Okay, but in DSV, we have a separate function working on sustainability. There are uh,
Mm,
there are global initiatives that we're working on, and I believe that, especially in LinkedIn, we have a lot of materials, a lot of presentations regarding sustainability. Okay, locally for our organization. So in terms of sustainability, what we do is to ensure that quality is embedded in our operations, and that this quality function is also working on an independent process, okay, such that we will no longer require additional auditor and so on. So that's what we are embedding into the process. But generally, there's not much of other initiatives that we have, at least for now. On a global level, there is a huge set of activities that we're working on when we talk about the movements, the transportation. So that's where a lot of initiatives are going on in terms of carbon footprint and everything. So we can read a lot about it. Apparently, we are not allowed to mention any specific detail for communication guidelines, but I recommend that people can refer to our materials available online when it comes to DSV sustainability. Yeah.
Totally understandable, Jeff. Right? I would think that there's a specific department or there's specific section in what in terms of the hybrid work arrangement. I want to understand, Jeff, at this point, how does it look like in terms of the work arrangement? Are you guys 100% in the office already, or are you doing the hybrid model wherein some of the people are reporting in the office and some of the people are still working from at home or from anywhere?
Yeah, as of today, we are still on a hybrid setup. Okay. It depends on the process as well. We have critical processes wherein
Oh
we
yeah.
ask people to be in the office every day. But generally speaking, as an organization, we are observing a hybrid setup. We have
Mm-hmm.
policy like X number of days at home
Mm-hmm.
and X number of days we should be in the office. Yeah,
But
and we're seeing
mm-hmm.
the value on it. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
say that it's bad. I couldn't say it's good, but there's value that we can get out of the hybrid setup. We know that we are in the logistics industry. Businesses do not stop 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And, during the pandemic, there's a lot of issues when it comes to transportation. So working at home really adds a lot of value because,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to asking people to render overtime, it wouldn't be too much to ask because they're still at home. The time to
Mm-hmm.
travel is compensated by them just sitting all day at home. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good. Okay. It also gives people time to spend with their families, to take over, oversee everything that happens at home, and that's something good about the work from home arrangement. However, back in the office, all right, we still see a lot of value while everything can be done digitally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We still see a lot of value in terms of physical collaboration, tapping each other whenever we need to discuss on anything. We don't need to wait for an appointment to get into a call and everything. So discussing it face to face with people, maybe a group or an individual, actually adds a lot of value in
Mm-hmm.
the efficiency of creating decisions. Yeah, so today we are still on the hybrid setup. I'm not sure when the time will be that we will be calling everyone back to the office, but as far as I understand, yeah, we will be on a hybrid setup for quite some time.
That's nice, Jeff. And I know because not all industries enjoy that kind of setup, right? I mean, we enjoy that. I mean, we enjoy the maybe the work from home, work from anywhere, and even the hybrid model. But I just want to understand, Jeff, in terms of the for your team specifically, like how many days are you spending in the office, and how many days are you staying or working from home most of the time?
Okay, I personally come to the office every day.
Every day. Okay.
The moment that level 1 was actually declared for
Mm,
Manila, so I'm going to the office every day. Okay,
mhm,
even if operations have this arrangement of this
mhm,
week team 1, next week team 2, and everything.
mhm,
So we get to see them. We get to
mhm,
see these people, collaborate with them, talk to them about their issues. So being in support actually helps being in the office every day, despite the fact that they're changing schedules, right? Um, we will still be able to let them see that we are here. We're with you. You're not alone in the office because, of course, until today, there will still be some sentiments that, we're operations, we need to be in the office, while some of the teams, they don't even come to office. Well, we would like to
mhm,
remove that notion that
mhm.
the support teams are not required in the office. We are, and we will be supporting everyone, whatever they need us, and we will still drive the initiatives for continuous improvement despite the fact that we're on hybrid setup. So that's what we would like to send as a message generally across the organization.
Actually, that's a good message, Jeff, especially in our field in continuous improvement, right? That most of the time you have to go to the scene of the crime. I mean, that's I mean, that's one of the foundations. I mean, that's a Gemba walk that we've been talking about. That's a traditional, but it's still effective up until now. You have to see it, and in terms of collaboration, I would agree with you, Jeff. It's actually easier for you to collaborate and create that relationship with your stakeholders and communicating with them on maybe on a more colorful way. It's because most of the time if you're just looking at like the on a virtual environment, and sometimes you are not on camera, right? It looks like it's a very cold, it's a very dry communication, unlike if you are on a face-to-face basis, that you're seeing like a lot of gestures coming from the people that you're working with, whether the people or the person is agreeing with you or not. So at least it's easier for you to get that signal. I mean, it's thank you for sending the message, and support people. We're not exempted, definitely. um,
We're not, and most of the time, that's the notion. Oh, we're not required because we're not that important.
yeah.
We're not that critical. The business will run without us. But no, yeah. So we are there. We need to be with operations day in and day out.
Okay, and this one, Jeff, if there is one thing that you want to ask the government in terms of the support, or maybe is there any regulations that you thought of, I mean, maybe for quite some time, that can help out the logistics industry, what is that one thing?
I've been thinking about that, and I couldn't ask for anything more than what we have today because I
Mhm,
believe that our organization has been very, very sensitive about the needs of our people, about the needs of our customers, being able to deliver processes, being able to address the concerns of our employees in terms of the hybrid setup, some other needs were also addressed. I don't think government needs to play a huge part for now, but it's more of calling out organizations to be more sensitive about the needs of their employees. There's a lot of flexibility that the government left the organizations on how they handle
mhm,
their work, they handle their employees, and that's where we need to bring much value to our employees. And I believe, yeah, we're in a good place. I'm happy where we are, organizations being able to address what needs to be addressed
mhm.
at the right time as well.
And that's a very good answer, actually, Jeff. It's because we are going back to really the basics. We're not depending so much on the external environment, external factors, whatever it is that we can do, that we can control internally, especially taking care of our people, looking at the needs of our people. I believe that's the right thing to do. So great job on that. Um, Another thing that I want to point out, or maybe as a point of our discussion, Jeff, considering the all stakeholder approach, do you think that spending patterns of consumers have changed? We're talking about in the logistics industry, in terms of the brand usability and functionality. What are now the considerations of the consumers or the customers in order to buy a product, or maybe in order to send a specific item to to their, what do you call that, consignee, to the recipients?
Yeah.
um has it changed in terms of maybe the behaviors of our consumers in your specific space, Jeff?
Volume wise, nothing has changed. It
Nice.
actually went higher. We don't
Mm.
see a negative effect of pandemic on the volume of shipments that we process. Maybe it got stalled for a moment because of certain restrictions. Some were actually held off for a certain number of days or weeks due to limitations, but the volume hasn't stopped. The demand of the people hasn't stopped when it comes to apparel, when it comes to some other goods. Okay, so as I mentioned early in our discussion, um, logistics industry played a huge part in terms of the economy, and that's the primary fuel that we
Nice.
have to keep the economy going, right? In terms of trade. Now, where do I see the shift in the focus of when it comes to consumer spending? Well, because of the pandemic, we see a lot of shift from the services industry, like in terms of spa, in terms of um, uh, haircut, right? Because of the pandemic, at least during the height of the pandemic, no one has actually been going out for a haircut, and people resorted to changing their image with long hair and all. And you know
Yeah,
what?
I did too.
You know what? Some products actually gained traction for that specific situation, like your own personal haircut machine and all. So they actually resorted to cutting their hair alone. Some of my friends did that. Okay. In terms of restaurants as well, dining in, like we actually prevented ourselves from dining in the restaurants. So, naglag ba ako? Yeah.
Yes, yes, Jeff, a
Uh,
bit.
Okay.
um
Yeah. Another factor that I'm seeing is on dining.
mhm.
Yeah. So we haven't actually spent a lot of time. I myself loves dining. Um, yeah, so the ambience, the actual food being served, sizzling hot and all. So that actually excites me. But because of the pandemic, yeah, people actually resorted to having food delivered at home. Yeah,
Mm,
such that the physical store, the restaurant is no longer required. Yeah. So
yeah.
um, some other things like travels that actually got stalled. Yeah, like we have a lot of friends who are in the travel industry, yeah, and the hospitality business as well that have been affected by the pandemic. And you know what? Personally, what we did because we couldn't do staycations, we couldn't travel, we just do road trips. Personally,
Nice.
it's more on gas. That's actually
Mhm,
so we shifted right from spending
mhm,
on hotels, on foods, and everything, but it's now shifted to gas because we're traveling, and
mhm.
we just don't get out of the car. So
Yeah.
everything drive through, and just sightseeing wherever we wherever we go, wherever the wheels take us. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
such an experience, but I see a great value on that because that's where we strengthen the ties with our families. Before pandemic, not just me but a lot of peers that I know, We used to travel with our friends. We used to travel with some people at work and in different groups, and we left our family behind. But now, given that we are at home together, we'd like to ensure we look after each other. We travel also together, so we actually strengthened our relationship with these people, which we have actually forgotten for quite some time. So that's where we shifted focus. I think pandemic itself isn't that bad because it actually gave or paved way for some other factors to be looked upon, like what you mentioned earlier. Personal health is also becoming a necessity as of today. So we need to look after our well-being as well, mentally, physically. So generally, there's still some value. It depends on how you look at things, but I see it as that. So it actually provided certain issues operationally, economically, but on a personal level, there's still some memories that you can bring with you forever, given this situation.
Oh, that's so inspiring, Jeff, because that's also, I mean, I can definitely relate in right after this pandemic, or I mean, not right after, but for the past months, that's also one of the things that I did. Really, I went back to my family, my parents, and my siblings, because they live in the province. Just last year, so I was able to visit them like twice, and then spent like a couple of weeks with them, and then also this year. And I believe that's one of the things that I want to put more emphasis on. I mean, that relationship with your family, that's more important than anything in in the world. So it really depends. I mean, as you mentioned, right, Jeff, it depends on you. But on me, that's also the same thing with what you value. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And another thing, Jeff, because I don't want to end our conversation without hearing some tips about, because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of maybe youngsters, there's a lot maybe Gen Zers, or maybe even younger than them, who are aspiring to becoming a quality manager, or a continuous improvement manager, a process excellence manager, or a process excellence expert. Maybe if you can provide, like, I don't know, there's a lot of tips, right? And maybe the top two, that maybe on the top of your head, what are the two things that you can provide to the young ones?
Okay. Personally speaking, being into this kind of work was not part of my plan
Mhm.
back in the days. So what I
Me
can
too.
say, what I can say to these youngsters is that just do it. When you want to do something, just do it. Just give it a try. Don't be afraid. Because I actually planned on doing something else. So, but some of my peers, my supervisors, believe that I can do this work. So they actually pushed me to apply for this role, and I did. And I don't know what happened, but I got the job. And from then on, I continued the stint up to today, and I couldn't thank them more for making me realize that I fit this role. Yeah.
Mm.
So who knows? Because at times I can say that um, you will doubt yourself if you can, if you cannot. But these people around you sees more of you, your potential, what you can bring moving forward, and just believe when they say that you can. And definitely you have to tell yourself you can. Okay, so that's
Mhm.
generally a cliche, but it works.
You just have
Okay,
to do it, right?
yes, you just have to do it. Number two is to do it with passion. Okay, but before engaging into anything, it will be always critical for you to know yourself, what you want, where you enjoy, and all of the things that actually inspire you, because these things are what you will bring forward. So what inspires you will be something that you will capitalize to inspire other people. Yeah, and this is very, very critical for you because you're creating an image for yourself, for other people to look at you. You'll also portray something, and you better create an image that you love yourself. Yeah, so that's the message that I can bring to the youngsters who would like to engage into quality and also whatever industry or whatever road they may take moving forward.
Nice. And on the first note that you shared, Jeff, I thought of one thing that I shared with my team in one of the events that we held in the office. I was sharing with them that whenever I hear that specific voice, because there will be times, right? I mean, every now and then you will be hearing like a lot of voices, that a lot of whispers like that that will tell you that you are not good enough, that you cannot do it, that hey, you are not as competent as you think you are. But then again, what I shared with my team, that whenever I hear such kind of whisper, I do it. So whenever I hear that you cannot do it, I do it. So I believe that's a key thing, because our minds are actually tricky. So you just have to do it, because you'll see the fruition in anything that you will be engaging with. And the second note that you mentioned, Jeff, it's all about um, putting passion, um, putting passion in anything that you do. And these two things, I mean, as you mentioned, Jeff, right? It they sound like cliche, but then again, if you do it, you're actually gonna get like a lot of realization. Your life, I mean, your work becomes more meaningful. And I would also subscribe to that idea, especially when you mentioned that, in anything that you believe that you are, um that you're getting like a lot of motivation in doing like this specific thing, that if you keep on doing that thing, and then most likely you're going to get a lot of results. um Thank you so much for sharing those tips, Jeff. And I know that you've inspired like a lot of, not just the young ones, but you've inspired like a lot of professionals, not just the continuous improvement professionals, but a lot of people who are watching us right now. And I believe this is the time. And maybe, Jeff, if you can, maybe the last message that you can share to our audience before we end our bootcamp for day two.
Well, personally, I'd like to thank PSQ for inviting me for the short talk. And I hope that I was able to provide some tips and tricks to them, some insights about what's happening in the quality world. And I'd also like to thank you for engaging yourselves into this field. Okay, not all of us are driven by quality and continuous improvement, but it's good to have this blood running into our industries and into our organization. So I hope that we continue doing what we do. We improve ourselves to provide improvement to our organization. And please don't forget to strengthen our network. So please feel free to connect with us. I think PSQ is a good platform for us to collaborate, and this will generally bring us a lot of value in our personal and professional careers.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. And by the way, I got a lot of takeaways for today for our day two. Maybe the top two that I can share with you and the rest of our audience would be: the first one is really putting more. We need to take care of our people. So I believe in any companies. I mean, if we do the right thing for our people, then it will be easier for us to implement like, all of the things that we plan for our organization. And the
Right.
second one is really more about, I believe that struck me the most, Jeff. That's is the one that you mentioned, that when you are in doubt, if or when you are doubting yourself, just do it. So I believe that for me, that's a strong message, that if, especially in this specific field that we are in. So I believe that's very important. And by the way, as mentioned by Jeff earlier, one of the hubs under the PSQ Technical Hubs is the Lean Six Sigma Hub. And we are inviting you to be part of PSQ and be part of this hub. So we'll be discussing some more projects for this year and next years to come. So we'll be crafting our roadmap. What are those things? What are the meaningful things that we can do for our country? All right, so thank you so much, Jeff. It's been great talking to you, and we'll definitely message you offline, and we'll be delivering your plaque of appreciation to your address. We'll be communicating with you in a short while. And by the way, to our audience, for you to get the certificate for the PSQ technical, I mean, for the PSQ or for the second PSQ Leaders Bootcamp, you just have to scan the QR code that we will be flashing on the screen, or maybe you can go to the email that we sent you. You'll find the specific link in there for the post-evaluation survey. And you just have to complete the 5 days of the bootcamp, and you're gonna get the certificate coming from us. And this is Ray. You're the president of the Philippine Society for Quality, the host for the day 2. And we're missing Jeff, our main host, Doc Narro. Doc Narro is just so busy
Yeah.
these days doing a lot of things. But then again, you'll be seeing Doc Narro like in the next days, I believe, in the day 3, day 4, and day 5. Day 3, day 5. So stay tuned, and you'll be also seeing John or JG, one of the VPs of PSQ. And that's only it for our day 2. Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you so much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.